It's good to be back. It's good to be back to the Sioux, and thank you, Terry, for that great introduction. It was actually thanks to God. Next time I'll furnish you the short version of the bio. I don't know what happened. There's a short version of it, but it's really great to be back in the Sioux, and I'd like to say to good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir, comme vous l'avez mentionné, d'être de retour. And I'd like to offer a special thanks, Prime Minister, if you allow me, first to the workers, the steel workers that we had the chance to meet as we were touring the facility. It's really because of your talent, your energy, your work, your know-how that we are here today. And I would say today we're taking an historic steps towards producing green steel in Canada. And that's because of you all. And I often say, and I think the Prime Minister and me say that many times, talent attract investments. And that's why we are here today. And I want to start first by thanking all the steel workers. And you were kind, Michael, to show me an annual report of 1912, I think. So it's quite amazing to see the history. And we had the opportunity to meet a steel worker, a third generation. And my question is, what about your kids? And he said, I surely hope. So we're going to make that happen for sure today. I'd also want to say thank you, Terry, for your good work. You've been an amazing advocate. You welcomed me in 2016, and today's the big day. I must say, if in 2016 we listened, and the Prime Minister has been with you, and we've been with you all along with the steel tariff, today it's the big announcement. It's the big announcement, and I want to say thank you. You're a big advocate for the community. I can tell you when Terry speaks, caucus listen, and I would say we all listen. So you've got an amazing representative, and I could see when the steelworkers were seeing you, and the fact that your uncle, I think, worked here, it just says a lot. And oftentimes we were comparing notes about our writing. Mayor, it's good to meet you, Mayor Provenzano. Thanks for taking my call yesterday evening, I think. We had a chance to talk about jobs and growth, because this is all about jobs and growth today. And Mayor, it's been a real pleasure, and I hope we're going to do more together, because we all know how Algoma is so essential and so, I would say, instrumental in the future of the city, the families, and the workers. So very pleased that you could join us, Mayor, today. A real pleasure. And obviously, I have to say a special thank to Michael Mcquaid. Michael, which is here, the CEO. Michael has been a visionary. He's been a great partner to make that happen today. And I want to say the vision was about how can we make greener steel in Canada. And I remember how many times we did talk and text messages that we sent. But today we are here together. And I just want to acknowledge, thank you for making greener steel a reality, Michael. It just says about your leadership and your perseverance and the fact that you've been working with us all along and all your team. And I would say to the Prime Minister in record time, because from the moment we spoke with your team and today, it's been quite a short time, I must say, for the size of the investments we have today. So I just want to say, and you're passionate about people. I remember when we're removing our boots, you were talking to me about the people and the people and the people and how it is important to be close and working with them. So I think today is the big day. Obviously, I'm very pleased, everyone, to be here with the Prime Minister to announce this very important investment for employment, for our economy, and for our environment. And this is what Building Back Better looks like. I mean, there's been people asking, what is Building Back Better? But today you have a great example. Employment, the economy, and the environment. And today, that's why we are so pleased to be here. And as Minister of Innovation, Science, and Industry, as you would imagine, I am laser focused on a strong recovery that will survive the test of time. And that means a green, sustainable, and inclusive recovery for all. It is undeniable that the world has been facing two major threats, one which we have lived through, which is COVID-19, and I would say on the other end, it's climate change. And one thing I believe is that science, technology, and innovation will allow us to have the breakthrough technology in order to find solution, just like we did with vaccine with respect to COVID-19. So my message to the worker would be, and I think, Michael, you grasp it very quickly when we talk. So every industry that makes the smart decision to transition to a cleaner and greener production is an industry that is taking steps to be more competitive globally while securing good jobs for now, but also for decades to come. And I think we were talking about that. The point of today is to secure the jobs of today, but making sure that the industry will be there for decades to come. And that is very important in terms of intergenerational equity. We're making key investments to make sure that the sons and grandsons and granddaughters could be working here as well at the plant. Chaque industrie qui prend la décision de verdir sa chaîne de production est une industrie qui va être plus compétitive dans le monde et qui va pouvoir fournir des bons emplois aux travailleurs pour les générations à venir. I must say, I must confess, I have a particular admiration for Canada's steel industry, and particularly its resilience. I think, Terry, you were highlighting a lot of the things that happened, but let me bring you back to history. Take Algoma Steel. In its 120 years of history, it's seen the railroad boom, the Great Depression, and 2 world wars. And just a few years ago, as you said, unfair and illegal tariffs threaten the livelihoods of workers in communities like the Sioux. But we stood with the workers to good and more difficult times. And now we're facing another great challenge together. Today, the world steel industry accounts for nearly 7% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That's equal to the global aviation, shipping, and chemical emissions combined. But the good news is that Canadian steel is already among the greenest in the world. And that's thanks to the investments and the technology that you've been investing for decades. But the markets, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, and consumers are demanding more. They're demanding more progress. That's why we cannot rest. That's why we have constantly to innovate and to continue to make the best and cleanest steel in the world, right here in the Sioux. That's why our government is pleased and proud to invest alongside you to make Canada's steel industry to improve its long-term competitiveness in the industry. So that brings me to today, which I think is, I'll leave most of it to the Prime Minister, but I'll give you a teaser to make sure that you stay with us throughout this investment. Today's investment in Algoma Steel will support a multi-$100 million project. I'll leave the Prime Minister to give you the exact figure, but this project will allow us to phase out coal-fired steelmaking and move toward electric furnace production. L'investissement d'aujourd'hui fait partie d'un projet de plusieurs centaines de millions de dollars qui va permettre à Algoma Steel de passer au four à arc électrique, un processus, comme vous le savez, qui est pratiquement carboneutre. This is the very first project which we are funding through the new Net Zero Accelerator, and thanks to you, Michael, and your team and the management team, to target heavy emitting industries in Canada, and it's also a very key pillar of our climate plan. Algoma Steel project will reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and hold on, by 3 million metric tons per year by 2030. And if you're wondering, what is 3 million tons? Well, that's the equivalent of taking nearly 1 million cars off the road, or for those who know Toronto, that's the total number of cars that you find in Toronto. That's the size of the price today that we're investing. It's taking the equivalent of taking 1 million cars off the road. And just as importantly, this investment will make Algoma Steel more competitive and resilient for decades to come. This is good news for workers and their families, Mayor. This is good news for the Sioux and the whole region. And this is also good news for our environment. This is one, if I look at all the projects, this is one of the best examples of how investment can support jobs, the economy, and our environment. So as I want to conclude, to give the floor to the Prime Minister, let me say 3 things to the workers who are watching us today. The first thing I would say, let's seize the moment. This investment allows us with great opportunities. The second thing I would say, let's be ambitious, as you have always been ambitious in this steel plant, and let's together produce the best and greenest steel in the world. With these words, I'm now pleased to invite the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Canada to come to the podium, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Thank you, Terry, for those kind words. Thank you for your passion, your conviction, your resilience, and the strength of your voice for Sault Ste. Marie. You have, from the very beginning, consistently stood up for this community and for the incredible people who live here. It has resonated not just throughout National Caucus, but throughout the government. We're lucky to have you on the team, but the Sioux is lucky to have you as well. Je suis aussi très heureux d'être en compagnie du ministre Francois-Philippe Champagne, qui est un autre champion infatigable des travailleurs et de l'environnement. Big shout out to Mayor Christian Provenzano. Great to have you here, a friend and strong partner for Northern Ontario, and of course from Mike Mcquaid for welcoming us to Algoma this morning. It's so good to be back in the Sioux. Whenever I'm here in this beautiful city, I'm reminded that this is a place where no obstacle is too big and no opportunity is too small. Just think of when we came together and got unjustified tariffs on Canadian steel removed, or the last 15 months, which saw neighbors supporting each other through a once-in-a-generation pandemic. When there's a job to be done, this city steps up to the plate to turn challenges into opportunities. And in today's world, I can't think of a better way to move forward. My friends, there's no doubt that climate change is the test of our generation. Canadians get that. That's why people voted for real climate action almost 2 years ago. But of course, it's not just about protecting our environment. It's about protecting jobs, too. After all, even if there are those who would try to say otherwise, fighting climate change and growing the economy must go hand in hand. Le Canada est bien placé pour être un chef de file et fournir au monde les innovations les plus propres et les plus efficaces, maintenant et pour les décennies à venir. C'est pourquoi nous nous sommes fixés l'objectif audacieux d'atteindre la carboneutralité d'ici 2050, et la semaine dernière, nous avons fait de cet objectif une loi. Ceci donne aux Canadiens et aux entreprises la confiance qu'ils ont besoin pour continuer d'investir dans les innovations et les technologies propres. Ce cadre de responsabilisation et de transparence nous permet d'atteindre cet objectif d'une manière qui donne confiance aux Canadiens et qui donne aux entreprises et aux travailleurs les outils dont ils ont besoin pour réussir et rester compétitifs. Et c'est exactement pourquoi nous sommes ici aujourd'hui. Today, we're investing up to $420 million for Algoma Steel to make green retrofits in its operations and phase out coal-fired steelmaking processes. With new state-of-the-art equipment, Algoma Steel will transition to electric arc furnace production, giving them an even greater competitive edge over imported steel. That's not just good for business. That's good for the environment, too. This green transition will be the equivalent of taking over 900,000 cars off the road, as Francois-Philippe pointed out. That's a huge step for cutting pollution. It's not hard to see why industrial plants like Algoma Steel are seeing the opportunities of clean innovation and saying, I want in. And as they do, they're bringing workers along with them. With our investment in green retrofits, Algoma will create 500 well-paying jobs over the next 4 years, 450 new student co-op placements for the next generation of workers, and training for 75 high-skilled jobs in STEM. It just goes to show that by investing in Canadian know-how, we can create good jobs for today and tomorrow alike, from manufacturing the best steel in the world to mining the critical metals for our zero-emissions future. Notre investissement veut dire que les travailleurs d'Algoma auront des emplois pour des décennies à venir. Ça donne la certitude pour les paiements hypothécaires. Ça donne confiance dans les plans d'épargne pour l'éducation des enfants. Évidemment, Ça mène à moins de pollution et ça protège les côtes des Grands Lacs et les forêts du bouclier canadien. Good jobs, clean air, a strong economy, that's win, win, win. And today's announcement is just the start. Very soon, we'll have good news about another major investment, this time with ArcelorDefasco in Hamilton. I'll have more to say then, but the bottom line is this. Another iconic steelmaker will become more competitive and an even stronger partner in reducing emissions. Combined, these two projects alone have the potential to reduce our emissions by about 6 megatons a year, helping us reach our ambitious climate goals. For industry and for climate, we're getting results. Dans un sens, notre parcours vers un avenir carboneutre commence à l'acierie. L'acier fait partie des étapes essentielles à un avenir carboneutre, des éoliennes au transport en commun en passant par les véhicules électriques. En ce qui concerne les véhicules électriques, nous avons annoncé la semaine dernière que 100% des ventes de voitures et de camions au Canada seront sans émissions d'ici 2035. La réduction de nos émissions liées au transport est l'une des voies les plus accessibles et les plus avantageuses sur le plan économique que nous pouvons prendre maintenant et jusqu'en 2050. Ce sont des investissements audacieux comme ceux-ci qui mènent à des mesures climatiques audacieuses. We're up against a real challenge when it comes to climate change, there's no doubt. But we also have a real opportunity, too. This is no time for old ways of thinking or skeptics that would tell us we have to choose between jobs or climate action. This is the moment to work together to build a clean future and a more resilient economy. In fact, people understand you can't have a real plan to strengthen our economy if you don't have a real plan to fight climate change. And that's what I'm focused on. Clean air, good middle-class jobs, and a brighter future for all our kids. And that's why it's such a pleasure to be here in the Soo today. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. Thank you all.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Minister Champagne. Thank you, Terry, so very much. This is truly a momentous day for every member of the Algoma Steel team, our families, our community, our country. We truly appreciate your support for Algoma Steel. And to share what today's developments will really mean for Sault Ste. Marie, I have the great pleasure to call on one of Algoma Steel's greatest advocates, Mayor Christian Provenzano.
I'm not quite sure how you speak after someone announces a $420 million investment in your community, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. Since the Prime Minister is here with us, I'm going to take the opportunity to thank him and his government for its support throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. The Algoma District has not recorded an active COVID-19 case since June 30th that we know of. This is not evidence that we should let up. To the contrary, it is evidence that we need to keep doing what we have been doing to get ourselves here. Keep yourself safe. Look out for one another, follow public health advice, and get vaccinated. In that last respect, Mr. Prime Minister, I express deep respect and gratitude to you, Minister Nand, and your government for the excellent work you did procuring vaccines for our country. It is a job that was exceptionally well done. Today's announcement is the largest and most important public funding announcement in our community's history in two respects. The first is obviously the quantum. No level of government has ever provided near this amount of money to support a project in our community. The second is arguably more significant and is where I will focus the remainder of my comments. Many of us here in Sault Ste. Marie can trace our history, our family stories, directly or indirectly to the operation of this steel plant. My family would not be here but for Algoma Steel. It has been the economic lifeblood of this community for well over a century. However, many things have changed over that same period of time. For Algoma Steel to continue making the great steel that our country needs and to provide the good jobs that our community needs, for Algoma to have a stable and sustainable future, it must change too. This investment and the project that it supports represents an integral component of that change. This investment will allow Algoma to modernize in a substantial and meaningful way. It will allow Algoma to transform its technological operations, thereby reducing its emissions and its impact on our environment and our community. In every way, with this investment and this project, Algoma Steel will become a stronger, healthier, and more sustainable steel producer and community partner. I sincerely thank the Prime Minister, Minister Champagne, for their attendance today and for the federal government's critical and integral support of this project. I want to recognize Algoma CEO Mike Mcquaid for his leadership. I have been impressed by his commitment to this company and to our community. I thank him, his executive management team, and the Algoma employees for getting this project to today and for the work they will do to make this project a reality. Lastly, I want to recognize our MP, Terry Sheehan. Terry has been a pleasure to work with since Sault Ste. Marie sent him to Ottawa in 2015 to be our voice. He has delivered for us time and again, and today he delivered for us on an unprecedented scale. You are a great MP, Terry, and I appreciate your love for and your dedication to Sault Ste. Marie. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Christian. I knew you were the man to speak about the impact for Sault Ste. Marie very much. Our final speaker today is Algoma Steel's Chief Executive Officer, Michael Mcquaid. Mike joined Algoma in March of 2019 after having acquired more than 35 years of experience at Stelco Inc., a fellow Canadian steel producer. In 2007, he was promoted to Vice President, Finance at Stelco, and played a critical role in that year's sale of U.S. Steel. He carried on after the sale as the General Manager of Finance for U.S. Steel Canada, and in 2010 was appointed Chief Financial Officer for U.S. Steel Canada. In his final executive role as President of Stelco U.S. Steel Canada, he led a successful financial restructuring and sale while under CCAA protection, which separated Stelco from U.S. Steel. He retired from Stelco in March 2018. Mike holds a Bachelor of Mathematics degree from the University of Waterloo, as well as the CPA, CMA, and Chartered Director designations. Today's announcement marks a significant milestone in Algoma's transformation journey, and I invite Mike to come forward and share what this will mean for Algoma Steel, our community, and our country. Mike?
Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Champagne, MP Sheehan, Mayor Provenzano, honored guests, Algoma co-workers. Thank you, Prime Minister and Minister, for taking the time to come to Sault Ste. Marie and join us today. Your commitment to Algoma Steel, our community, and embracing our vision for greener steel and enhanced sustainability is greatly appreciated. A short 2.5 years ago, Algoma Steel emerged from creditor protection and embarked on a transformation journey. From there, we set out on a path to sustainability. Our initial focus involved investments in improving our finishing operations, including an extensive upgrade to our cornerstone asset, the direct strip production complex, which saw the capacity of that unit increased from 2.1 to 2.4 million tons. In February of this year, we celebrated the first arc on our second ladle metallurgy facility, improving our refining capability and capacity to deliver more precision grades of steel. And work is now underway at modernizing our plate mill, Canada's only discrete plate and heat treating facility. When completed, this upgrade will expand our portfolio of advanced plate grades, enhance our product quality, and increase our throughput. In May, we announced our pending return to the public markets with our agreement with Legato Merger Corporation. And all the while, our employees have been driving cost-saving initiatives, automating processes, changing the way we work, and maintaining our focus on safety. To date, we have realized cost savings of some $38 million annualized, with a further $15 million worth of initiatives currently underway. The momentum continues to build on our path to enhanced sustainability. And today is yet another milestone announcement as we consider an investment at the core of our steelmaking process. A financial commitment of up to $420 million in Algoma's proposed transformation to electric arc steelmaking, which serves Canada's environmental goals of decarbonizing industrial processes. This investment is for the future of Algoma Steel, with the promise of good skilled jobs, sustainability, and a greener future for our community and our customers. This financing is vital in making this aspirational goal of net zero a reality, and we greatly appreciate the federal government's leadership and confidence in us. Prime Minister Trudeau, thank you for your leadership on this file and your commitment to advanced manufacturing. Minister Champagne, MP Sheehan, we greatly appreciate your unyielding support of this investment in industrial decarbonization. Algoma Steel's transformation will have a meaningful, lasting impact on this community and on the thousands of families that Algoma Steel supports. Much work continues, and in addition to the federal government, the province of Ontario and the city of Sault Ste. Marie will be important partners in our environmental efforts. I'd be remiss if I did not thank Mayor Provenzano, whose continued leadership and advocacy at all levels continues to help Algoma Steel being a leading employer and a strong corporate contributor in Sault Ste. Marie. And finally, I'd like to thank every member of the Algoma Steel team. We are powered by our people. Without you, we could not be successful. We look forward to sharing this exciting opportunity and the many benefits it will deliver with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. We have a special presentation for the Prime Minister right now. I'll call on Mike Mcquaid to do the honors. So the Prime Minister visited the second ladle metallurgy furnace today, and now he has a keepsake to remind him of the facility. So that concludes our formal agenda today. And I want to thank everyone for coming and joining us in this special announcement. We truly appreciate you coming out despite the rain. It's certainly a momentous time for us, and we're glad you were here to celebrate with us. So I'm now going to turn the agenda over to the Prime Minister, who's going to come to the podium to take questions from the media, and others are welcome to stay for this portion of our agenda. Thanks once again, and have a great afternoon.
So I'll ask the media to join me up at the microphone here. One question, one follow-up.
Dan Gray, Sue Online. So how is this going to help us meet our national emissions targets?
Well, one of the things we know is that we need to transform so many of our industries, so many of our individual habits if we're going to reach net zero by 2030. And indeed, if we're going to reach our ambitious reductions by net zero by 2050, our ambitious targets by 2030. So yes, there's a lot of things that individual Canadians are doing and can do, but there's also a need for us to support our heavy industries in transforming the way they do things. We already have, for example, some of the cleanest aluminum in the world out of Saguenay because we have made investments there. Steel has always been a little more of a challenge because it is so intense around coal-fired furnaces that this announcement of reducing by up to 3 megatons right here from Algoma over the coming years in terms of emissions is a huge part of reducing those emissions every single year and getting us to net zero. So by making these investments, not only are we making sure that Algoma is cleaner for the environment, it also becomes more competitive. More competitive because the new technology allows for a higher grade of alloys and quality products that are competitive in the world, but also because increasingly companies are looking at the carbon footprint of their inputs. If you think of major car manufacturers or steel users around the world who are going to want to reassure their customers that they have greener, lower emitting steel in their products, well, Algoma will be at the front of the line in terms of creating those good products. So as the world transforms towards lower emissions, investments like this create jobs, create sustainability, and create a better future for us all.
With 3 megatons being the target for Algoma Steel, what is the national target? How many megatons do we have to reduce as a nation to get to net zero?
We can follow up the numbers exactly, but what our goal was when we took over in 2015 was to reduce our emissions by 30% below the 2005 levels. We put in a price on pollution right across the country because it couldn't be free to pollute anymore across the country. And even though there were some provinces that resisted, the courts recently ruled, and we now have a price on pollution right across the country that actually puts more money back in the average family's pockets as we incent the kinds of investments we're seeing here today. We then increased our target ambitions to the upper 30s, and we have now a target ambition of 42 to 45% below 2005 levels. That's something we can only achieve if everyone does their part, from individual Canadians to businesses to communities and governments, but also to our industrial partners who realize that being more competitive and lower emitting is going to be a great way of ensuring jobs for generations to come and success for the communities that they're part of. This is the path we're on, and this is what we're going to continue to do. Nous avons reconnu que c'est tellement important de lutter contre les changements climatiques, mais contrairement à certains, comme le Parti conservateur, nous avions toujours compris que de lutter contre les changements climatiques, c'est une opportunité pour créer des bons emplois et de la prospérité économique. Que la réalité, c'est que pour créer une économie forte, il faut faire un virage plus vert. Alors, les investissements qu'on est en train de faire ici vont permettre à Algoma de réduire de façon significative ces émissions, ce qui va faire partie de la solution, comment nous allons pouvoir atteindre les 42 à 45% de réduction d'ici 2030 et la carboneutralité d'ici 2050. Nous devons de faire les investissements pour permettre aux industries, aux compagnies de faire ce virage et pour créer ces emplois. Mais ce n'est pas juste une question de créer des processus plus verts, c'est aussi une réflexion que c'est des processus plus compétitifs, que le désir des consommateurs partout dans le monde d'avoir de l'acier plus vert, comme nous avons déjà de l'aluminium parmi le plus vert au monde au Saguenay, maintenant on peut parler d'acier qui va être parmi le plus vert au monde. Et quand des compagnies, que ce soit Tesla ou d'autres, veulent utiliser de l'acier qu'ils peuvent vendre à leurs consommateurs en étant propres et responsables, le Canada vient de démontrer sa compétitivité encore plus dans un monde où les gens recherchent la qualité, la fiabilité pour laquelle le Canada est toujours connu.
Aujourd'hui, c'est la fin de la quarantaine pour les voyageurs canadiens qui reviennent de l'étranger. Quelle est la prochaine étape? On sait que la frontière avec les États-Unis est encore fermée jusqu'au 21 juillet. Qu'est-ce que ça va prendre pour la réouvrir? Et peux-tu en français et en anglais aussi, s'il vous plaît?
Je pense que tout d'abord, les gens comprennent qu'on a été extrêmement prudent tout au long de cette pandémie. La sécurité, la santé des Canadiens a toujours été notre première préoccupation. Et à cause de ça, on a vu une pandémie bien moins pire, encore trop tragique et trop de pertes, bien sûr, mais bien moins pire pour beaucoup de monde ici au Canada qu'ailleurs dans le monde. Mais parce qu'on a fait ça, on savait aussi qu'il fallait qu'on appuie les gens comme il faut. J'ai fait une promesse au début de la pandémie d'être là pour les Canadiens et c'est ce qu'on a fait. 8 $ sur 10 de tout l'argent dépensé pour appuyer les Canadiens dans cette pandémie, ça venait du gouvernement fédéral. Donc, je comprends l'impatience des gens qui veulent que tout revienne au normal. Je comprends le désir de l'industrie touristique que nous allons continuer d'appuyer, de recevoir encore une fois des visiteurs, mais nous devons le faire de façon prudente et graduelle. C'est pour ça que je suis tellement content que les Canadiens pleinement vaccinés peuvent maintenant voyager et revenir sans avoir à faire une quarantaine à partir d'aujourd'hui. Et les prochaines étapes, c'est justement d'accueillir des voyageurs qui seraient non vaccinés. Mais on va prendre ça, des voyageurs qui seraient aussi pleinement vaccinés. Mais nous allons prendre ça étape par étape parce que d'abord de remettre nos aéroports et nos processus en train de pouvoir prendre la capacité de voyageurs, c'est important, mais aussi parce qu'on ne veut pas retomber dans une autre résurgence de COVID-19. Donc, nous allons procéder de façon responsable, mais les prochaines étapes vont venir dans les semaines à venir. We've known from the beginning that we needed to take and put the safety and security of Canadians at the forefront of everything we did in terms of this pandemic. That's why we have been extremely careful to support Canadians right through and why we're continuing to be. We know that restrictions and closures are difficult on businesses, particularly in the tourism industry, and on Canadians, but that's why we made the promise to have people's backs as a government, and that's exactly what we did. 8 out of every $10 in support to Canadians through this pandemic came from the federal government. We've had people's backs and we will continue. We will proceed in a responsible, step-by-step fashion at reopening and allowing larger numbers of people to come to Canada. But right now, Canadians and permanent residents can travel and come back to Canada without having to quarantine. That's a big step. We're going to see travel volumes go up. We're going to ensure that our airports and our travel facilities are able to handle the new surge with careful measures in place. And we're going to make sure that we're not seeing a resurgence of COVID-19 cases because nobody wants to go back to further restrictions after having done so much and sacrificed so much to get to this point. So we're going to stay safe, but we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to see new steps on reopening announced in the coming weeks.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Si vous pouviez répondre dans les deux langues, encore une fois, ça serait apprécié. In 2015, then Prime Minister Stephen Harper said he was visiting the Governor General to trigger what ended up being an 11-week 11 campaign. He was arguing that he felt very strongly that election campaigns need to be conducted under the rules of law. Those kinds of campaigns needed to be done with money from parties themselves and not government resources or taxpayer resources. So today, you're on the road, you're making a big announcement that's aligned with your party's priorities, you're criticizing your opponents. How do you justify using taxpayer resources for an announcement like this? And why not just call an election?
We have been, over the past many months, not just announcing a path through this COVID-19 pandemic, but demonstrating our commitment to building back better in a stronger economy. We announced major upgrades in the Ford plant for auto manufacturing that'll be zero-emission vehicles. We announced that Lyon Electric is going to be making electric buses in St. Jerome. We announced new measures for the electrification of transportation right across the country. We have been demonstrating that as we move forward, investing in the economy and the environment at the same time is something that every government should be doing, and we've been doing it for the past 6 years. We're going to continue doing it as we continue to focus on how we invest in Canadians. And this announcement today is something we've been working on for a long time that has been unlocked by recent announcements in Budget 2021. I think Canadians expect us to keep moving forward on our priorities, which are and have always been to grow the economy, create good jobs for Canadians, and protect climate change at the same time. That's what we'll keep doing. Nous avons depuis les débuts priorisé la croissance économique, la création d'emplois et la protection de l'environnement. Cette annonce aujourd'hui suit une série d'annonces qu'on fait depuis des mois, que ce soit le Ford Motor Company qui a investi, où on a investi pour des véhicules à zéro émission, que ce soit des investissements comme Hélicis la semaine passée au Saguenay pour de l'aluminium zéro carboneutre, que ce soit Lyon Électrique à Saint-Jérôme ou Novabus et autres. On est là pour faire les investissements nécessaires pour créer des emplois, pour faire croître l'économie et pour protéger l'environnement. C'est exactement ce qu'un gouvernement devrait être en train de faire et c'est ce qu'on est en train de faire.
The British Prime Minister's office has condemned the toppling of statues of Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II in Winnipeg. Do you also think these acts should be condemned, and do you condemn them?
I've said that many times, that vandalism, arson, destruction of public property is not the way to move forward as a country. I fully understand the anger and the grief that so many people are feeling, particularly with the discoveries of grave sites across the country from residential schools. But we need to move forward as a community. We need to listen to that anger, to that grief, and make reflections around how we commemorate and honor historical figures, whether we do. But at the same time, the hard work of reconciliation comes from rolling up our sleeves and working together on a better path forward. That is what I have consistently called for and will continue to.
Mike McDonald, CTV News, Northern Ontario. Kind of along the same lines as that last question. In the past, you've denounced attacks on mosques and temples. We learned today that another church was burned in Calgary. Now, do you consider those to be hate crimes, and will your government do anything to help churches protect themselves?
I have repeatedly over the past weeks and indeed months condemned attacks on religious institutions and over the past weeks condemned the burning of Catholic churches. That is simply not right. It is a shame, and indeed it is something that is going to prevent people who will seek solace in times of grief from being able to visit their own places of worship when they've been vandalized or burnt. So it is not the way forward. What we will do, what we will continue to do, and what we have done over the past many years is invest in community security infrastructure for mosques, churches, synagogues, for community centers that are at risk of vandalism or security issues. We have a strong program that we've put in place to help with security infrastructure, and we will continue to invest in that because every place of worship in this country needs to be safe.
Lindsay Sarrazin, Global News. I am wondering, normally people in both Sault, Michigan and Sault, Ontario can cross back and forth freely. Looking forward to being able to do that again. So can you justify how can you justify not opening up the border to fully vaccinated Americans? And can you do French and English for us?
We have had the borders with the United States and with all international partners closed for about 1.5 years now. It has been an extremely difficult time for everyone to not see loved ones, not be able to travel, but it's what we needed to do to get through this pandemic. And we are not yet through this pandemic. Canada is doing better than just about any other country in the world in terms of vaccination rates. And I congratulate all Canadians for stepping up on their second doses, as so many people have. My shoulder is still sore from my injection on Friday, but it's a very good thing. We are almost there. How much of a shame would it be for everyone if in a few weeks we had to go back into lockdown? If tourist operators had to reclose and cancel bookings? That's why we are taking a gradual, measured approach that puts the safety of everyone first and foremost every step of the way. As of today, Canadians can travel and come home without having to quarantine. That's great news. And we're going to carefully monitor both the numbers, the volumes and capacities at our airports and border crossings, and whether that results in increase in cases, as people are seeing, for example, in the UK, where they have high levels of vaccination but serious outbreaks of the Delta variant. Every step of the way, Canadians expect us to keep them safe, and that's what we will do. We will be gradual and cautious about reopening, which I recognize is particularly difficult for border communities like the Sioux. But the safety of all Canadians comes first. But we also have said that we would continue to have people's backs, whatever it takes, as long as it takes. And that's what we've done with the historic investments in supports for small businesses, for workers, for families, for tourism operators. We are going to continue to be there to get people through this. La réalité, c'est que nous devons de tenir bon encore quelques semaines pour passer à travers cette pandémie. On n'a pas fini encore. Nous allons rester extrêmement vigilants. C'est pour ça que nous faisons de façon étape par étape. D'abord les Canadiens pour revenir s'ils sont pleinement vaccinés sans faire de quarantaine. Et dans les semaines à venir, on va avoir d'autres annonces à faire pour d'autres touristes, on l'espère. Mais d'abord, il faut s'assurer que nous pouvons toujours protéger la sécurité des Canadiens.
2 weeks ago, you said that Canadians could expect more announcements in the coming weeks about your government's plans to ease travel restrictions and reopen the border. So with 2 weeks having now passed since that last announcement, what more could you say today about talks with the United States about reopening the border?
I can understand how eager people are. As of today, Canadians can return to Canada without having to quarantine for 2 weeks. That's a big, big step that we've been able to do, and we're going to watch and monitor carefully to make sure that capacity issues are fine, that there are no new spreads of cases, and that we are on top of it in terms of being able to keep people safe. I know how eager people are to get things back to normal, but things aren't normal yet. There is still a pandemic going on. There's still thousands of cases of COVID-19 across the country. There's still people dying every single day from COVID. So the faster people get vaccinated, the more people get to that full vaccination, the quicker, the more we are going to be able to take further measures opening things up. Nobody wants us to move too fast and have to reimpose restrictions as case numbers rise like we're seeing elsewhere in the world. We need to do this right as we have for the past year and a half.
Une autre question. Peux-tu répéter la réponse concernant le vandalisme sur les églises?
Comme je dis depuis plusieurs semaines et depuis des années, le vandalisme et la destruction d'églises et de statues, d'autres choses, c'est pas la solution. En plus, quand on pense à une église détruite, non seulement c'est une perte d'héritage et de patrimoine, mais pour les individus qui souffrent et qui auraient trouvé des moments de répit et du soulagement dans cette église, on vient de leur enlever leur capacité de trouver un peu de rescousse. Donc, oui, je comprends qu'il y a des gens fâchés, il y a de la frustration, il y a énormément de peine, mais nous devons de travailler ensemble pour avancer en tant que communauté, pour créer cette réconciliation, pour écouter, pour entendre. Les actes de violence ou de destruction, ce n'est pas la solution. Merci tout le monde.